1 minutes. Jessica Ettinger, CNBC.
Attention. Per the current government mandate, U.S.-based insurers are now required to cover at-home COVID testing kits with no out-of-pocket fees to you. If you have a current insurance plan, you are eligible to receive up to 8 COVID-19 tests shipped to you each month absolutely free, as long as the government mandate is in effect. Just visit testkitforfree.com to register now from the comfort of your own home. That's testkitforfree.com to receive your tests shipped to you at no cost. Go to testkitforfree.com today. Paid for by T. Euro Health.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show on KCAA. We'll be right back after this message from our sponsor, Teamsters 1932, a strong union with 14,000 members in the IE. Go to Teamsters1932.org for more information. I'm Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show, inviting you to listen to my show during the noon hour every weekday right here on KCAA. My show is sponsored locally by Teamsters 1932. A strong union with 14,000 members in the IE. Our message is clear. Unions improve the lives of working people. You have a right to form and join a union, so go to Teamsters1932.org and get started now.
Located in the heart of San Bernardino, California, the Teamsters Local 1932 Training Center is designed to train workers for high-demand, good-paying jobs in various industries throughout the Inland Empire. If you want a pathway to a high-paying job and the respect that comes with a union contract, visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org. Are you looking for a good union job? The Inland Empire's 14,000 members strong Teamsters Local 1932 has opened a training center to get working people trained and placed in open positions in public service clerical work and in jobs in the logistics industry. This is a new opportunity to advance your career and raise standards across the region. Visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org. Are you graduating high school soon and wondering what to do next? College is one option, but why not consider the high-paying jobs made possible by union power? Labor Union Teamsters Local 1932 has opened a training center to get you into the high school to high-paying job pipeline. You'll learn all the skills needed to excel in opportunities across industries. Visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org.
Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is The Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here, back live and in the studio. Month-long trip, the Working Class Heroes radio tour. And if you missed any of that, thericksmithshow.com is where you go and pick up all of that. But today, Election Day, the fun. The fun, the entertainment that... You got to find something positive out of this. Because, look, we already know what's going to happen. Republicans are going to whine and complain that where they lose, that the election was stolen, but in places that they win, worked perfectly to plan. Yes, it's that kind of situation. Because, after all, they believe they should win every election. And, look, I'll be honest. When I was playing sports, I believed that I was going to win every game, too. The difference was at the end, when you looked at the scoreboard, you go, I lost. mad, angry, work harder next time, but shook hands, congratulated the other side, and moved on. That no longer the GOP. We're going to find out what kind of a country we are, though. We're going to see if voters are going to come out, especially in my state of Pennsylvania. Hopefully they will speak with a unifying voice that will move us in a more positive direction, or we're going to end up, the conspiracy theories that I'm already envisioning coming out as on election night. I had someone tell me that Doug Mastriano is going to win as governor of Pennsylvania, and even if he doesn't, we're going to win. I don't know what that means. But a couple of things possible tonight. And we're going to find out. Is this going to be Rovember as we were told it's going to be? Is this are the women folk going to be angry? Going to come out and vote? They've registered. Is this going to be a Kansas kind of moment where the polls are way off? I mean, they were way off in Kansas. Is this going to be that moment where women come out and say, you know what, we demand our rights? Or is this going to be one of those things where it's, we're just going to whimper through? So potentially, one of three different scenarios is going to happen, work its way out. We know either going to be the classic tsunami that you see like we saw in '94, the Gingrich Revolution, 2006 when Bush got whacked, or 2010 when the Tea Party folk all came out and crazy folk like. We're going to see that, where even the closest of races are going to tip towards the Republicans, and you're going to pick up seats in places that they never even imagined. Is that going to happen? Will we see a 40-seat House swing? I don't think so, but we'll see. Is it going to be kind of just a wave kind of thing, a little wave, not the red tsunami, not the red beating that the right is fantasizing over, but they're going to pick up the close races, and maybe a surprise here or there, which is kind of more where my thinking is. Or is it going to be small advantage for Republicans? They're going to things are going to break for Republicans in some fashion. We're going to see how it plays out as we count the votes. Now, we're in my state of Pennsylvania. You already know the votes will not be counted this evening. It's going to take a couple of days because we have this weird little thing that we do here, like not counting the mail-in ballots until the polls close, which seems kind of dumb to me, but it's what we do. So the theory, the thought, what's been told to me is that the belief is that Mastriano will be ahead at the end of the night, much like happened in 2020 with Trump, who was way ahead, I think like 600,000 votes ahead on election night. But then they counted all the ballots, the ones that people mailed in, and he then lost. Well, they learned the lesson. They're not going to allow that to happen, is what's been explained to me. They're going to come out forcefully and demand that they win. Like a child, slamming their feet on the ground. So it's going to be interesting to see. Now, this election, I'm hoping there'll be something that comes out of it, because in our tour and the places that we went and the folks that we talked to, the economy, jobs, infrastructure, those were the important things. None of the divisive stuff. But the other theme, the big one, the future of democracy in this country, the future of this wonderful experiment of self-governance, whether we're going to respect what comes out of the ballot box. And I don't know how we're going to break, because there are so many election deniers running for office. There are so many of them. And I'm assuming, again, courts are going to be full, because we are so divided. And I keep coming back to this moment of we have got to be talking to each other and moving on a set of policies. Because look, the economy, everyone overwhelmingly, the economy. You look at the two parties. The Republicans have done everything in their foolhardy best to make it harder for working people to get ahead. Them's the facts, folks. Tax cuts for the wealthy, cuts for big corporations, and, nothing for the working class. Democrats are talking about rebuilding manufacturing, investing in infrastructure, strengthening worker protections, giving people the ability to join and form unions, to move toward that American dream. Now, again, I come back to what I've been saying all along. Trump did a masterful job of taking credit for stuff that he didn't do, or couldn't do, or was never going to do. Biden's actually done some stuff that he's not even bothering taking credit for. Got to do a better job in messaging. Now, again, today, the fun part of today is going to watch all the complaining and the whining and the lawsuits that will, the conspiracy theories. I was watching the F channel for a little bit. Could only stand a little bit of it. But the F channel, all in conspiracy of, Arizona. They're cheating in Arizona. The machines. In fact, you look at the reality that our Justice Department sent, basically watchers to 24 states. Palm Beach County, Florida, Maricopa County, Arizona, Cuyahoga County, Ohio, where I grew up. And you don't send watchers to Cuyahoga County if I don't know, unless you think that there's going to be some shenanigans, not by the people voting, but by the people attempting to intimidate voters. Because I had someone reach out and say, you know what? The place where I vote, first time ever, saw a constable in uniform at the door. And you go, why would you do that? Well, it's that imagery. Now, the Justice Department did send out these monitors to 24 states. DeSantis in Florida attempted to block the monitors. Because of course. Now, here in Pennsylvania also, I got to throw this out there. Polls were closed at 8, except in Luzerne County, where those will be open until 10 p.m. Evidently, some of the machines ran out of paper. I don't know how you do that. Could be a good sign, though, for Democrats, because generally when more people vote, Democrats do a little bit better. We will see. But I guess a number of the polling locations ran out of paper. Again, don't know how that happens. But tonight, going to be watching some of the key races right here in my home right now, Pennsylvania. The two big ones, Senate and governor. I'm feeling a little bit confident about the governor's race. I know Mastriano is going to want to declare victory tonight. And I know my Mastriano fan friends, they want to grab the mantle and hold on to it. But I don't think the votes are going to be there in big numbers. I'm expecting about a 5% win for Shapiro, which I think is going to hold. I'm not so confident on John Fetterman. I'm hoping the folks come out and vote. But I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, Rick at thericksmithshow.com, or give us a call, 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Going to take a quick break. Right back with J.D. Schulten. He is a candidate out in Iowa in the 1st House District out there for their state house. We met him along the Working Class Heroes Tour. Quick break. Right back with JD. If you're a fan of the show, you've heard our labor history in 2 segments, and you can hear them on the radio pretty much anywhere in the U.S. Labor history has never been more important than it is right now. So here's what we'd like you to do. Tell a teacher. Tell a teacher that labor history is important and that they can get digestible 2-minute lessons that are absolutely free. Free to download, free to use, free to share. Tell a teacher to go to thericksmithshow.com/history and help us put labor back where it belongs, in the classroom. You know, generations of American workers fought, bled, and died to build the American way of life. It's our job to keep their stories alive. Go tell a teacher that we're here to help them do just that. Find us at thericksmithshow.com/history today.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So along the Working Class Heroes radio tour, we stopped off in Sioux City, Iowa, and what a great stop that was. And I want to thank our good friend J.D. Schulten for putting together what was an incredible opportunity to speak with a wide variety of residents that came out to talk with us. That's why I had to get J.D. to come on. He's also the political director for the Mike Franken campaign. Let's hope good thoughts for the Admiral here as we count the votes. JD, thanks for taking time for us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm just, on a little bit of cloud nine right now.
Well, congratulations. I know that you ran unopposed, but congratulations. You are now the representative for the good folks there in Iowa's first House district in the state House. Good on you, man.
Thank you. And even though I didn't have an opponent, it's one of those things where I don't take anything for granted. Having run for Congress twice and losing both times, it's a lot of effort went into winning this seat, and even without having an opponent, I'll say that.
So, what's the feeling there tonight as you start counting the ballots? What's the feeling like?
With it being a full moon and just kind of everything, there's a lot of uncertainty. I think there's something happening out here, and you don't know how much it got tapped into or how much it didn't. And, it started last fall with the October strikes, and then kind of came through the spring and all summer. And, I think there's a lot of frustration happening out there amongst voters. And I think there's a lot of voters who are up for grabs. And so I know as part of the Franken campaign, we did all we could to try to connect with folks and bring them on board. I hope we were good enough for that. And I just, coming out of this, I think there's so much opportunity to be a Democrat as a reformer. And that's what some of the things I plan to do at the State House. And hopefully other folks can jump on board.
What's the message coming out of this, do you think? I mean, I know we haven't seen the outcome, but I've been saying for some time, and we talked about this extensensively in Sioux City, that I think Democrats need to get back to the core issues of it's the economy, stupid, of bringing jobs back, of fighting for investments in infrastructure, and of course strengthening unions and organizing the workplace again.
I mean, what I see on the ground is working class folks are struggling. And that's one thing where I don't think we could talk enough about, like inflation and corporate greed and monopolies and all that, because it all ties together, especially here when so much of our business is related to agribusiness and it's so concentrated. And so I'm 100% on board with that. Build that inclusive group. I love to talk about Dollar General and building that Dollar General coalition, and folks of all different backgrounds, rural, urban, coming together and just working for working class folks. I think there's an opportunity, and Dems are really missing on it. And I feel that there needs to be a shift in the Democratic Party, and I think there needs to be a shift at the top of leadership. We have a lot of folks who I feel just are have been in either DC too long or just. I have some ideas about what I want to do at the state level, but I think nationally we have to do better. And I think we need to look in the mirror after this election, regardless of what happens tonight, and just show that, hey, we can be better.
Yeah. Now, of course, the race that you're looking for, the Grassley-Franken race, how are we feeling about that tonight?
I mean, from the very get-go, we know it was going to be a tough opportunity, but I thought we've put ourselves in a position to win. From day one, we always knew that there was a lot of things that had to break our way, and several of those broke our way. And so we're just waiting, and we did all we could, and we're just very, very excited about waiting to happen. And unfortunately, I'm not with most of their team. They're all down in Des Moines. I'm here in Sioux City, but it was an honor to work for Admiral Frank. He's a heck of a guy, and I hope we can pull it off tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I had the opportunity to spend a little time with Admiral Franken in Cedar Rapids, had a really nice conversation. I actually sat and had a beer with the guy. One of those things, hey, he's a guy I'd like to have a beer with. Yeah, he is, but he's the kind of guy I would like to have in the Senate as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, I saw just today about an agriculture monopoly fertilizer. The four companies that control, or the top companies that control it, are manipulating the prices and hurting our farmers. You know, it'd be great to have an actual senator who just doesn't talk about it, but actually takes on some of this. And so, you know, I'm.
Yeah, why didn't we hear enough of that? Why didn't did we? Let me pose this as a question. Did we hear enough of what's causing the inflation during this election cycle? Because again, we keep coming back to the reality is it wasn't a switch in the Oval Office that Joe Biden flipped on and said, "Hey, we're going to have inflation." It's the corporate monopolies. It's these CEOs who have saw an opportunity to gouge us. It's what's going on in Ukraine. It's a lot of things, not flipping a switch in the Oval Office.
I just, I'm frustrated with the Democratic Party about not doing it enough. But that's one thing being an elected official now, that will give me the opportunity to have more of a voice on this. And so I'm very much keeping this at the forefront of my message and everything, and I'm hoping other Democrats will too.
Yeah, so outside, and you've also got a governor's race going on, and we had the opportunity to spend a little time with Deidre DeGier. I thought she was fantastic. What are her chances this evening?
They didn't. I wasn't part of that team, so I don't know the inner circles of it, but it was a tough race for them. I think Deidre is an amazing, amazing speaker. Regardless of what happens tonight, I really hope that she stays active, because I think she's a huge asset for the Democratic Party. I hope they sneak out a victory, but it's one of those things where just a lot of unknowns here in Iowa right now.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, we spent a lot of time in your state, and education was like front and foremost on everybody's mind, because
it blows my mind. We have a Republican senator who's running against public education on the platform. I don't even know how that's even possible. Our state quarter is foundation in education. How is that even possible? And yet here we are, and the fact that Deidre isn't going to win in a landslide just absolutely blows my mind.
Now, you had said something to me while we were in Sioux City that has been stuck with me. You said that right-wing talk radio basically radicalized your state. Is this not the place where Democrats have to put some shoulder into and reclaiming some of these rural areas and going back in and talking about messaging? Because look, progressive policies are extraordinarily popular. Even if progressives aren't, those policies, our policies are very popular.
I mean, for 4 years running in Northwest Iowa, when I stopped at a diner or wherever, or a mechanic shop, and you just talk policy, everyone shakes their head. They nod their head and they're like, yes. And then they're like, are you a Democrat or Republican? You mention you're a Democrat, and all of a sudden their eyes change, or their face change. That's where the brand is at. And so we got to capitalize on this moment where our policies are winning. Our policies are very popular, and yet the Democratic brand is hurt. I mean, we're seeing it in polling all across the nation. There's polling that shows, as a Democrat, we think these Republicans are so radicalized. Well, the polling shows that most of America thinks both parties are radicalized. And so how do we come out of that? How do we improve our brand? And that's something that, there's only so much we can do in Iowa. And so much as a statewide candidate or what I could do as a state house candidate. But when the brand is so diminished, we have to figure out ways to do that. We have to figure out ways to win campaigns. The way that it's structured so much, very consultant heavy. You ask, like most of the federal races, you ask the people, the candidates, they're talking to two major people, or two people mostly. One, it's consultants, and two, it's donors. The people who's missing are the regular folks, the voters. That's who we need to connect more. And the amount of money that we're raising online and everything, we absolutely have to change the way we're campaigning.
No, I'm right there with you. Last line of questioning. I know you got a lot to get to this evening. Nationally, what are we looking at? What races are you paying attention to? Which ones do you think are important?
Well, I'm looking at House races in different districts. Excuse me. To kind of see bellwether stuff. We have a race here. Cindy Axney is a 2-time incumbent. With redistricting and everything, does she keep a seat? Are we going to flip one of the seats on the eastern side of Iowa? But I mean, I'm also looking at the major Senate races that I think most people are looking at as well. Secretary of State races and Secretary or State Treasurer, those are unique seats that I'm very focused on as well. When we talk about where we're going to invest when combating climate change, state treasurers have a huge responsibility. So I'm very interested in focusing on that.
Yeah, it's interesting. The one thing that Trump, if you give him credit for anything, made us keenly aware of how important attorney generals are, secretaries of state, and other positions that most people didn't even know existed. We now know how important they are.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah. Anyhow, well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for all you're doing, and keep it up, and happy to chat any other time.
Good stuff, JD. Appreciate it. Good luck tonight.
Thank you. Take care.
Good stuff, JD Schulten. Look, at the end of this, the reality is people got to get out to vote in those places where you're still able to. And if you didn't vote today, tomorrow, no complaining. That's kind of my rule. If you didn't vote, you don't get to complain. Because some of the results are coming in, and I'll be honest, I'm not all that happy. Ohio, J.D. Vance is up 50-49 there with about 49% of the vote, so it's going to be a long night there. Here in Pennsylvania with about 18%, John Fetterman's up 60-37. Let's hope that trend continues. Georgia, some good news out of Georgia with about 67% of the vote. Raphael Warnock up over Herschel Walker 51-47. Let's hope that continues in those directions. Still going to be a long night of counting the votes, a long night of hoping. I know there are some who are also praying. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com, or give us a call, 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. You got a thought, you got a question, you got something on your mind. If there's a race that you're watching, there's a bunch of, I got like a whole list of seats that I'm looking at. As of now, though, however, it looks like the House, there have just been 3 seats flipped so far. So still, Dems haven't lost the House yet. Quick break. Right back. Stick around. Remember, if you miss any portion of the program, download the podcast. Wherever you get yours, you'll find ours. Back after this. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1945. That was the day workers in Windsor, Ontario, walked off the job in a general strike to support strikers at Ford Motor Company. 20,000 CIO workers brought the city's industrial production to a complete standstill. 11,000 members of UAW Local 200 had been on strike against Ford since September 12th. They demanded a union shop and dues checkoff. As the strike wore on, picket lines swelled every day with as many as 1,000 to 2,000 amassing at the gates to stop scabs. Then, on this day, more than 9,000 additional members of Amalgamated UAW Local 195, working at 27 area plants, joined them in support. Thousands of picketers set up a blockade at Ford's Riverfront plant that tied up the city's transit system. Sandwich Street was choked with cars, buses, and trucks. More than 1,000 cars were bumper to bumper in an endless traffic jam as strikers worked to prevent a police attack on the picket lines. The 2-mile blockade and general strike were in effect for 2 days until the government threatened to send in federal troops to aid provincial and Canadian police. Thousands continued to picket. By November 12th, AFL and CIO leaders throughout Canada were calling for a work holiday to show support. Then, on December 19th, workers agreed to binding arbitration. Supreme Court Justice Ivan Rand was assigned the case. He ruled against the closed shop, but for dues checkoff. he put forth a series of rules and penalties regarding labor disputes that would come to be known as the Rand Formula. It has served as the basis for labor relations and collective bargaining in Canada ever since.
Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
America exists today as a bizarre anomaly. We profess to be an electoral democracy, yet we are ruled by a governmental plutocracy. One especially gross example of this incongruity is the overwhelming power of big money over the people's will. By a wide margin, Americans of all political stripes want to ban the distorting force of huge electoral campaign donations by favor-seeking corporations and ultra-rich elites. Yet, nothing. National and state lawmakers take the plutocratic money and promptly bury democratic reforms that would stop the gusher of corrupt cash. An analysis of donations in this year's congressional races shows that this plutocratic perversion of our politics and government has reached absurd levels. Historian Nancy McLean and public interest advocate Frank Clemente have documented that the two main super PACs trying to put Republicans in Congress got about half of their $188 million election fund from just 27 billionaires. Also, a corporate front that backs GOP candidates, Club for Growth, got nearly $35 million from only 3 billionaires. Thanks to years of congressional stonewalling and the steady partisan stacking of our top courts with corporate ideologues, there is essentially no limits on this purchase of lawmakers. Indeed, the biggest donors are even allowed to undermine democracy in secret, not revealing their identity. Lawmakers elected with this money not only support the billionaires' special interest agenda, which the people don't want, but also are fierce opponents of any reforms to increase voter participation in our governing process, which people do want. This is Jim Hightower saying, that's why, for example, efforts to guarantee every eligible American a constitutional right to vote have not moved forward in Congress, even though the great majority of people favor it.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Check out the website, thericksmithshow.com. Let's go to the phones. Got Alice on one. Alice, how are we doing today?
We're doing good. How about you?
I am great. Did you vote today?
Oh, you know I did.
Of course. That was a dumb question.
It was indeed. Remember, I'm the one who managed to talk my husband into voting after all these years, and he voted for the first time in 2020, so, which was one of the reasons why I was calling. He had signed up for the lifelong mail-in ballot thing.
Right.
Well, we never got one, okay? So it's like the second week of October, and I called our county election office, and I said, hey, my husband wants to know where his mail-in ballot is. Well, you have to fill out an application. I said, I'm going to tell you what. We filled one out for a lifelong ballot. We didn't get one. Well, you'll have to, so go online, fill this thing out, zip it off, to him that way. They finally sent him a ballot. We no sooner got that ballot, and I helped him, fill it out, to make sure that it's, everything's done correctly. Then, and I went through the caller log on the phone. 27 different times we got called by some conservative QAnon outlet against something against voter fraud. Wanting to know, to talk to him, to know, did he request a mail-in ballot? So, like the first 3 or 4 times, we were polite.
Right.
And by the time we got to number 17 and upward, I'm going, you do realize, right? You already called here to the 27th time. I lost it. And I said to my husband, here's those crazy QAnon nuts calling to talk to you again. I mean, I got rude. And I handed him the phone, and he'd had enough. And he said, what the hell do you people want now? And they hung up on him. They never called back.
Well, maybe that's how you have to deal with them then.
Oh my gosh, it was just ridiculous. So today, I've told you our little county is, red as can be and whatnot. So when I went to vote today, I was speaking to some of the ladies, and 3 of them, of the poll workers, are Republicans. So I was telling them about it, and they said, well, that's just insane. And I said, it is, isn't it? I said, we need to do something about this. So it kind of filled me with a little bit of hope that they actually thought that it was crazy, too.
Yeah. Well, good on you for voting, and good on you for getting your husband to vote and going through all of that. It seems that those on the other side, it really is about intimidation. And did you feel that as an intimidation tactic that someone was watching? When they first called, how did you think of that? Let me ask that first.
Well, when they called the first time, I just kind of rolled my eyes, and my husband just rolled his eyes too. And by the time we got into 4 or 5, he even said, "What the hell are they trying to do? Intimidate me?" I mean, that's an exact quote from him. And I said, I think that's it. I think that they feel that if they keep calling the mail-in voters, that maybe they won't decide to request the mail-in ballot anymore.
Yeah, but you see, I guess this is where maybe I'm just different, but the more you push me, the more you attempt to intimidate me, now the more I'm going to want to vote, and I'm going to, maybe now I'm going to go and do it in person to be defiant. I don't know how I don't know how they think this is going to work out for them. I don't know. It's weird stuff. But any thoughts tonight? Any predictions for how things are going to turn out?
Well, I am hopeful, and I don't know why. Well, I do know why. But
it's a full moon.
Okay. Well, you got to remember, we had a solar eclipse at 5:35 this morning. And on top of everything else, because for days I was going, "Oh, this is going to be an interesting one." Yeah.
Yeah, I was told that was Mastriano's crew burning the mail-in ballots.
It may have been, but one of my husband's predictions was Shapiro's going to get it, and he also is predicting that every Republican in the nation is going to be screaming voter fraud when they lose.
Yeah, you don't need a crystal ball for that. That's just a given. That's like taking a 2-year-old in the cereal aisle and telling them no cereal for you.
Right, they're going to be jumping up and down, holding their breath. And but I am kind of filled with hope. I think that Shapiro will become the governor for PA, and I'm rather hopeful on Fetterman. And the only other thing I have to say is, if I would have seen the news one more time and had to listen to one of those stupid Republican ads, I was at the point that I had even gave up screaming, you liar, at the TV. My husband was doing it, and I'm looking at him going, oh boy, I rubbed off really well. But hey, all we can do is hope.
There you go. And vote. Alice, appreciate it. Great stuff.
Bye-bye.
That is the one good thing about, honestly, about Election Day being over. Look, I'm a political junkie. The one good thing is, these nonsense ads that are universal. You put in the name, and just these carbon copies of, if it's a black guy, be afraid. There's crime. If it's any other Democrat, it's socialism. Just these cookie cutter ads that you could put any. And when we were in Wisconsin, they were just horrible going after Mandela Barnes on the crime. Because there's a black man, he might be doing something. Like walking down the street. It's crazy. And at some point, we've got to, as a society, and look, I've got conservative friends who go, the attack ads from both sides are just too much. None of these ads, and this is where my frustration is, and we talked about this on the tour, none of these ads are about how we're going to make people's lives better. It's just that guy's terrible. The other side is bad. And I really want to know what Republicans are going to do. Here's where, if we had a discussion on policy, Democrats would win. You know why? They actually have some. Republicans, they don't. Outside of tax cuts for the very wealthy and deregulation, there's not much substance there. There's not much there to chew on. So they've got to go with screaming and pounding their fists on the table and they're terrible socialists. They've got to do that because there's nothing there. I've asked a couple of people, so how are you going to make people's lives better? Well, Bob, we're going to deregulate, business and unleash the power of business. And you mean to gouge us more? You're going to unleash the power of Wall Street to continue to consolidate corporate America into a handful of companies controlling industry so they can raise prices through the roof and cause inflation? Is that what you're telling me? That's the plan? And that's how you're going to deal with inflation? By making it worse. And the answer is yes. That's the plan. That's the grand goal. I mean, I look at the Wisconsin race, to me, is one of the most obscene. Because I look at someone like Ron Johnson, who is, I don't know how he's electable after his comments on the Oshkosh defense contract. I don't know how he's electable, by a working class when he says, you know what, we don't need those 1,000, 1,500 jobs that would have gone to Oshkosh, Wisconsin. We don't need those union jobs. No, we've got enough already. We have more than enough. I don't know how the working class of that state is going, wait a second, what are you talking about? We've got enough. You mean, good jobs with, good wages and health care and retirement security and job security? We've got enough of that? Where? I don't know how, given that, back in the old day, 10 years ago, you just said that was the end of you. Now he's probably going to win. He's probably going to remain the senator from Wisconsin who thinks that South Carolina, the anti-union South Carolina, should have the jobs that were intended for the workers of Wisconsin. It's beyond me. It's crazy. Again, I look at here, in my state of Pennsylvania, I look at someone like Dr. Oz. No platform whatsoever. No idea. You can't pin him down on anything. Same thing with J.D. Vance in Ohio. What's the agenda? What's the platform? Oh, yeah, it's Trumpism. I get that. Okay, fine. What was Trumpism? It was basically a lot of noise. There wasn't a lot of policy there. There weren't a lot of chops there. And this is where the frustration comes in. I look at what Biden's been doing, and I give him credit. We're moving slowly away from neoliberalism and conservative tax breaks and conservative, whatever corporate America wants. And we're actually talking about how we're going to rebuild our infrastructure. Something that, again, you go back to Obama. You remember the shovel-ready projects? It was the same thing back then. We're going to invest in infrastructure. Did we do it? No, nowhere near enough. And I was screaming back then. The American Society of Civil Engineers back then was saying we needed, a couple of $1 trillion invested in our infrastructure. And did it happen? No, it didn't happen. To where now we're about $4.8 trillion in the hole? Just to get to even? This is where who we vote for matters. This is where who we put into positions of power. This is why that matters. We'll see how the results come out tonight, though. That is dope. But I'm not happy to see what's going on in Ohio with 50% of the vote already tallied. You've got Vance up 50.5 to 49.4 over Tim Ryan. There's still plenty of time here in Pennsylvania with 31% of the vote in. Fetterman's up 54 to 43. That's a good thing. On the governor's side here in Pennsylvania, with 31%, you've got Shapiro up 60 to 38. Feeling a little bit better there. In fact, some organizations, none that I would consider absolutely reputable, but some are already calling Pennsylvania for Shapiro. That is a good thing. That would be, if you could get the votes counted this evening in the Shapiro camp, that is going to be good for them, because I do believe still it's going to hold that more Democrats voted by mail than Republicans. But I want to hear your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425, as we continue to talk about the election, and maybe we'll get to some results on the other side. Back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1897. That was the day that Dorothy Day, a leader of the Catholic worker movement, was born in Brooklyn, New York. As a young girl, her family moved to San Francisco. Her father lost his job as a sports writer due to the devastating earthquake of 1906, and the family relocated again to Chicago. In 1932, she met Peter Morin, and together they founded the Catholic Worker Movement, a faith-based social justice effort. The Catholic workers opened what they called houses of hospitality to serve those in need. Dorothy helped to co-found the Catholic Worker, a monthly newspaper that became a voice for poor and working people. While writing for the paper, Dorothy traveled and visited with some of the most exploited workers in the country. She talked with migrant agricultural workers in California and was arrested for supporting the United Farm Workers in 1973. In 1940, she visited the Hooverville encampment in Seattle, Washington. Dorothy's reporting vividly demonstrated how her faith informed her activism. She wrote, quote, "The rain poured down. Underneath was mud, ankle deep, and the long lane that cut between the rows of shacks reflected the gray clouds in its pools. But Christ is there. I thought sadly, there in the mud, in the shacks with his poor, with them he is trying to find a place to lay his head. With them he hungers, and with them he suffers fatigue of body and soul. Behold, O God, our Redeemer, and look upon the face of thy Christ, there in the dumps, among the creatures who still are men. Have pity on them and on us, who permit such things to be." Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
So some good news coming out of Maryland and Massachusetts. Democrats picked up 2 governor's mansions. One in Massachusetts, one in Maryland. And look, those have been Democratic strongholds for a while, so not surprising. But in what is supposed to be a tsunami wave year, they're pickups nonetheless. Now, the hope here in Pennsylvania that you end up with a Democratic governor, because I come back to this, and as of right now, you've got Shapiro up 60 to 39 over Mastriano with just over 34% of the vote counted. This is the things that aren't going to happen with a Governor Shapiro. We're not going to be the next no rights at work state, and for me that really is one of the most important parts. And I'll be honest, having talked to a lot of union Republicans, this is one of those things that gives them pause, because they see what the no rights at work agenda does. They see how dangerous it is for working people, because they see what happens in other states, and which is why, again, in Illinois, they're moving forward on that workers' rights amendment, which I'm going to be checking to find what kind of numbers they've got there. But the reality is these elections cost way too much money. I was looking at some of the numbers that were coming out on how much money has been spent on elections over the midterms over the last couple of years, and just this obscene amount of money that's being spent, post Citizens United. All of this is because of Citizens United and just unleashing this billionaire money onto our political front. And for instance, back in 2010, when you had the big Tea Party win, the billionaire class spent about $32 million on the midterm. You go 4 years, the next 4 years, that $32 million jumps up to $232 million. By 2018, it goes up to $611 million. This right now is over $900 million, almost $1 billion. And it makes me think back to, as I've said before, something my grandfather always said: when the rich people are taking money out of their pockets to tell you what you should be doing, you should be spending $2 to do the opposite.
because what they're telling you is what's good for them, not good for you. So when I see this kind of spending, there's a point at which I think we really do have to recoil from this. Now, some good news coming out of Georgia as well, with 75% of the vote. Raphael Warnock, 49.2%. Herschel Walker, 48.9%. This is close. And it's, what is it? It's 7,000 votes at this point. And you go, how is this this close? Given all of the things that we know about Herschel Walker. I mean, how are we in this moment where a guy comes out and says, you know what, hey, and proudly, I struggle from mental illness, so much so that my wife fears I'm going to murder her. How is it that guy is somebody we would consider to put into the Senate? Other than, maybe you hope that, and I gotta think this is the calculus, that he may do that with somebody in the Senate. I don't know. But I look at some of these people and I'm going, I don't know how you get this. I don't know how you get these extremes. Are we this country? Are we this divided? And again, I come back to the month we spent on the road talking with people, both Democrats and Republicans. When you talk about the issues, when you get away from the mainstream corporate-controlled for-profit media, when you get away from the outrage machine of the F Channel and all of their little sister organizations, when you get away from the stuff that's meant to make you angry, we agree. And this is where my mind has been for some time. Someone asked me, several months ago, doing what I do here on this program, do I feel like I'm doing something positive, or do I feel like I'm making things worse? And I said, the reality is, I think what we do here is about moving an agenda that unites us and helps to rebuild the working class. Yeah, I'm very open and honest about that. My goal is always, the true north is always, how do we make people's lives better? And I've always said, the reality is I don't care if it's a Republican idea, a Democrat idea, a Green idea. If it's a good idea, we should be moving on it. The problem is, and again, this is the problem, Republicans haven't had any ideas. 2020, they didn't even bother coming out with a platform. Their platform was basically, whatever Donald Trump wants. This is the frightening part of all this. And you look at these Senate races. I mean, here in Pennsylvania, they've spent over $312 million on a Senate race. In Georgia, over $254 million. Arizona, over $200 million. Nevada, over $186 million. Wisconsin, over $186 million. You start adding all this money up. Think what we could do with, what is that? That's over $1 billion. Think what we could do with $1 billion to help get, children fed, veterans' homes, health care for people. I don't know anything better than more divisive ads, more attack measures, more division. Out of this, tomorrow, when people wake up, where will we go? Where will we be? What will we be doing? I'm still going to be talking about how we make people's lives better. How do we build an economy? And this is where I keep coming back to, I think the Democrats need to hone their message. What policies are going to make lives better? Now, it appears as though Republicans are going to take the House. As of right now, they have flipped 4 seats. I think they only needed 5. When that happens, nothing gets done for the next 2 years. Republicans in the House will allow nothing to get done. We know this. They've already said this. And then the fun begins. I guess for the next 2 years, we're going to have chaos. We're going to have, a Republican Party hell-bent on impeaching and all the things, the revenge impeachments that they have promised, all of the investigations of Hunter Biden and whatever else they can dream up. And we're gonna live through that for 2 years. But you know what's not going to happen? The lives of working people are not going to get better, not going to be addressed. And you know why? Because the money interests don't want it addressed. They want a working class angry at each other. They want a working class pitted against each other. They want a working class looking at their coworker with a jaundiced eye. They want that kind of division. Because they know in that environment, nobody's looking at them. You know what? We didn't talk about it at all during this campaign season? On taxing the Jeff Bezoses and the Elon Musks of the world. We didn't talk about that much at all. I mean, the campaigns. We talk about it all the time because it's something that has to happen. You go back to that great moment, the greatest moment in the country's history. A lot of my MAGA hat friends, where they remind me. That golden era of the 50s. The Norman Rockwell era. High taxes on the wealthy, strong unions, heavy investment by government in infrastructure and in the private sector, and manufacturing, jobs. That's the agenda. And I wish there were a Republican Party that were on that page, so we could be moving in that direction. But it's not, because corporate America is happy with the way things are. Because they're gouging our eyes out. And they're blaming Joe Biden. Now, I was thinking about this today. You know how much power we have given corporate America to basically run roughshod over our political system because they know how fickle we are? Gas prices went up 10 cents. Crucify the guy in the office. They can do whatever they want. And now with the internet, and now with Russia, who admitted, by the way, that they did interfere in the election, that they do have troll farms, and they did do all the things that they were accused of. And now with the Chinese, with TikTok and all of they're not bothering to moderate any of that. It could be easy to believe that we're doomed. Could be easy to believe. But I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. What races are you following, and did you vote today? I want to know. And did you encounter any stuff? Is anybody there watching over your shoulder? Anybody harass, intimidate, anything? Did you get any phone calls? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, Rich Ojeda from No Dem Left Behind and our good friend Sarah Burris from Raw Story are going to be here to share some thoughts and insights on what's going on this evening. Quick break, right back. Stick around.
The clock is ticking.
It's a big week for the planet as UN Climate Conference kicks off in Egypt. Major glaciers to disappear by 2050. Plus,
this is a massive system.
Late season storm Nicole takes aim at Florida's East Coast.
Nicole, all of those stories and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
And the biggest threat to democracy is to have someone like Senator Warnock to vote against our Keystone Pipeline.
Okay, A, pipeline from Canada is not a threat to democracy, Herschel Walker. And 2, Senator Warnock did not vote against the pipeline. It was not up for a vote. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, as we go to air, a big day, Election Day, and I'm sure it has nothing at all to do with the climate, correct?
It has everything to do with the climate. But first, as we go to air, the east coast of Florida is under a new state of emergency as a rare November storm, Nicole, heads its way.
You're on board KCAA's Inland Talk Express. KCAA, Loma Linda, 1050 a.m., the station that leaves no listener behind.
In September. It is a big week for the planet. Americans are voting in the
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. 3 days after Election Day, Democrats are holding on to narrow leads in key races in Arizona. But the races for Senate and governor are still too early to call. About a fifth of the total ballots are left to be counted. More votes have to be counted in Nevada. Joe Gloria is registrar of voters in Clark County.
We're not purposely holding this process back. We're doing everything in our power to move ballots forward just as quickly as we can.
Right,
But the
unless
statutory
Republicans
deadlines
find
that we
some
have
way
in
to
place,
dismantle it.
Simultaneously,
the latest
finish all
United
the mail
Nations
until it
climate
all
treaty
comes in.
negotiations,
Senate races in Nevada and Arizona are still up for grabs that could determine which party controls the Senate. A Georgia Senate race will have a runoff next month. At the UN Climate Summit in Egypt, President Biden says the U.S. is invested in the fight against climate change, and other countries should be too.
The climate crisis is about human security, economic security, environmental security, national security, and the very life of the planet.
But the president glossed over how he pushed for more oil and gas production at home. Sources tell the AP the head of Customs and Border Protection is being forced out of his job. Here's the AP's Jackie Quinn.
Commissioner Chris Magnus has been on the job for less than a year, but he tells the Los Angeles Times he was told to resign or be fired. Customs and Border Protection's been criticized for its treatment of migrants and for the sharp spike in border crossings, up 37% over the year before, surpassing 2.3 million.
Twitter's relaunched premium service that gives a blue check verification is unavailable because of a wave of imposter accounts. His manager says Gallagher, the long-haired, smash-em-up comedian who left a trail of laughter, anger, and shattered watermelons over a decades-long career, has died after a brief illness. He was 76. This is AP News.
Global temperature rise is limited to 1.5 degrees.
Car Recycling in Fontana says it's hard being away from home during the holidays, even harder if you're a soldier overseas securing our freedom. Send letters and packages, say prayers for our troops overseas. This message courtesy of Car Recycling at 15185 Whitram Avenue in Fontana. Call Car Recycling at 909-823-7946. That's 909-823-7946. That's where Trish and the staff are wishing everyone a safe and happy holiday season.
The COP27 UN climate conference kicked
The refinance boom is over, but that doesn't mean the mortgage industry is dead. As a matter of fact, we see a new trend swinging in. The pendulum has shifted to buyers, and we expect to see more buyers coming out of the woodworks. These are people who were often outbid and lost out in the bidding wars of the last 10 years. These are people with little or no money down. Now that the market has shifted in their favor, we expect to see a purchase boom down the road. Serve this population segment and make money in the process. Join our team and carve out a system that guarantees you leads and helps you close transactions month after month. But we offer more than transactions. We offer an ecosystem where money works for you and not vice versa, meaning that you don't make money only based on your own and sole efforts. With us, you can make residual income as well. Call us at 415-510-0127 or visit us online at themoneymarket.us.
Weather disasters in urging countries to move quickly.
What does the WeatherBug app tell you?
My commute will be a doozy today.
Hack my allergy meds.
Lightning. Pick up a pizza, not a tennis racket.
With more free map layers than any other weather app, WeatherBug tells you more of what you need to know to prepare you for the unpredictable. Discover why over 10 million users choose WeatherBug.
Maybe it's a commute to the couch day.
Download the WeatherBug app today for free.
This is Joe Lyons. The following salutes to America's men and women in uniform is presented with pride by the Ontario International Airport.
America's veterans come from different backgrounds and hold different views. But one thing they hold in common, when their country called, they responded. And all Americans everywhere owe them a debt of gratitude. November 11th is Veterans Day 2022, and we salute veterans across America and right here at home.
Presented with pride by the Ontario International Airport.
The caring staff at Mac Flavor Ingredients reminds everyone
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is
By doing
Rick Smith.
so, you may save the life of a friend, child,